So today, what we want to do is spend an hour today talking about you. And we know that you spend all of your days thinking about your students, and this is an hour we're gonna spend just thinking about you and how you can make your own wellness a priority. So before we get started, I wanted to share our equity statement, which is at Committee for Children, which is where Jenny and I work. We'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. But our commitment is to recognize, condemn, disrupt, and seek to rectify systemic injustices that create barriers to children's success. And we also want to acknowledge that the Committee for Children offices sit on the unceded traditional lands of the Coast Salish people, past and present, specifically the first people of Seattle, Washington, the Duwamish tribe. As we honor the Duwamish people and the Duwamish land, it is important that we consider our place in the past, present, and future history of the indigenous people of our region and how we can best support them. So perhaps you might also want to think about the indigenous people in the region where you are joining from today. So we are going to talk some quick introductions. We're going to talk about why Educator Wellness, and we are going to give you some very concrete self-care strategies that you can start doing right away that can make life a little bit easier. We're going to talk about managing stress and emotions. We're going to talk about sleep. We're going to talk about foods and how foods and moods relate, physical activity, self-compassion, and we are going to wrap up with the ever important topic of practicing gratitude. So my name is Amy Walker, and I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Committee for Children. I have been at Committee for Children for almost 20 years. And if you aren't familiar with Committee for Children, we are most widely known from our program, which is called Second Step, which is a social emotional learning program. So in our work with Second Step, we are constantly talking about social emotional learning. And usually we're talking about that in the context of kids. But now, really also at Committee for Children, we are really much more intentionally focusing on the social emotional piece as it relates to educators and to the adults in the building. So that's part of the reason why we're doing this webinar today, is to support you in your own wellness. And I've also been a classroom teacher, as has my colleague Jenny Nelson. And Jenny, do you want to say a little something about yourself and your role at Committee for Children?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name is Jenny, and I am a client success manager here at Committee for Children, which means that I am working closely with schools and districts to help them throughout the implementation journey of their social emotional learning programs. I am also a former teacher and really, really love being able to work so closely with our educators and helping them just navigate all of the different challenges and see the successes of bringing in social emotional learning to their classrooms and their schools. And I'm so excited that we're starting to really start talking about what it means to bring in social emotional learning for adults and focus on educator well-being, which we're here to talk about today.
And at Committee for Children, we do this for over 20 million kids. So we know a lot about social emotional learning, and we also know a lot about teacher social emotional learning as well, and educator well-being. So our mission at Committee for Children is to foster the safety and well-being of children through social emotional learning and development. And we also do a lot of advocacy work, probably in your state capitals, as well as a lot in Washington, D.C., to advocate for things around social emotional learning and funding and things like that. So our program, like I said, is reaching over 20 million kids in 50 states, and we are a nonprofit organization. So we are most widely known by our Second Step program, and we offer a holistic approach to building supportive communities for every child through social emotional learning. And our Second Step family of programs supports the whole child by building social emotional competence, addressing bullying, and helping protect children in school with resources that also support educators and extend beyond the classroom. So we have many of you might know us by Second Step, perhaps you use it, but we also have an SEL for Adults program. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that later in our presentation. So why educator wellness? Because you matter. There's, we couldn't possibly have students learning all the things that they need to learn if it wasn't for all the great teachers out there that are supporting them. And I know you know that much, but sometimes in terms of actually putting that to action is more difficult. You can sort of think in theory, you're all important. You definitely know you're important, but in terms of like what you're going to do day by day to practice that, to really practice the wellness strategies that are going to help you to be the best in terms of your teaching, but also to be the best in terms of every other part of your life, in terms of your health and your, how you are in your communities and your families, and even just, all the things that you need to do for your own life. So I'm going to start out by playing a video here that we developed at Committee for Children, just to give us a little inspirational kickoff to our conversation.
Teachers are always going to be stressed because they want to be the best. Teachers have to do everything. Teachers have to work extra hours. Teachers have to plan, prep, grade. Teaching has always been a stressful job, but right now it's off the charts.
You want to know what predicts classroom quality, at least according to research? Teachers' social and emotional well-being. Better than their preparation or their experience.
As a school, if you don't have a strong social and emotional foundation, you'll find lots of cracks. It's the key and the foundation for everything else.
If you want a healthy, positive school culture, invest in teachers' well-being. When teachers' emotional and social needs are met, they establish a really positive learning environment for their students. Teachers want to work in an organization that's supportive and growth-producing.
My staff is my number one priority. I have to make sure they feel successful, and the only reason my school can be great is because I have the teachers that make it great. To be the best school, we have to be intentional.
We need to invest in relational trust. We need to help teachers manage their stress. And we need to have teachers know how to work together.
When somebody walks into my school, they need to feel this is the best place they've ever entered. They need to feel welcome, love, and connection.
If we take care of the grown-ups, they will take care of the students.
Nice. I hope you enjoyed that video. So as we know, teaching is incredibly demanding, and teaching is isolating even in the best of times. Even before COVID, teaching was isolating, just in the sense that you're there and you've got, your students, and you don't have a lot of time to collaborate with your coworkers as much as you would like to. And so oftentimes you are alone, you do feel alone in terms of the stress that you have around your job. It is a ton of responsibility. Educators are the most important figures in a child's social emotional development. And you have so much responsibility as a teacher, and scrutiny. You face high levels of scrutiny about how you do your job. I mean, most of us out in the we work at a nonprofit or in corporate jobs. People have one boss. You have your principal, and you also have the 25 families of the kids that are in your classroom scrutinizing you, and you have the media scrutinizing the field, and there's so much scrutiny in education. And that's all really adds to the stress. So we know that stress affects teachers' health and job satisfaction. We know that there's a high level of attrition. We know that, and this survey, 46% of teachers report significant stress and burnout, and that survey was done before the pandemic. I can only imagine how much higher these numbers are now. So teachers who are stressed can negatively affect student achievement. We know that for sure. We know that it's impossible for you to be your best self when you are dealing with that much stress. So hopefully some of these strategies can help. And one of the things, a quote that I like to share here, is that you can't pour from an empty cup. So you can't give to your students what you don't have. And also the same goes for social emotional skills. Like I said, we've had our second step program for many years, and we more recently developed an SEL for Adults program. And part of that reason we did that is because we know that teachers can't teach skills that they don't have. So we're going to talk more about what that program covers, but that is one of the things, is that we're teaching teachers how to walk the walk also. So I'm going to share a video here of some Teachers of the Year talking about self-care strategies they use. And while the video is playing, we would love for you to be typing into the chat box a strategy that you use to practice self-care. So maybe if you can think about just sometime over the last year, what are some of the strategies that you're using to practice self-care? And while we watch this video, you can be sharing those in the chat box. And then after, Jenny's going to share some of those out with our group.
What are some of the ways that you practice self-care?
I don't. Oh boy.
That's definitely a skill I need to get better at.
Self-care is hard, especially in this profession.
However, my focus has been to get outside more, do more engagement with our environment.
Cranking up the tunes in the kitchen, cooking something delicious for my family.
There is more to life than just work, even if you really enjoy your career a lot, like we do.
I don't grade papers at home. I don't check my email very much at home, and I'm a better teacher when I have established healthy boundaries with work and leave work at work.
So one of the ways that I practice self-care is being able to say no. Sometimes you have to be able to take a step back and refresh before going on to that next project.
1-minute meditations. I just close my eyes, take a deep breath, and try not to think too much about what happens. And when I open my eyes, I feel much better.
Try to turn your brain off and let it be quiet sometimes.
Disconnecting from technology and distractions and spending time with the people that I love the most.
Before you assist others with the oxygen mask, assist yourself first. I like to exercise and be with my family, but yeah, assist yourself before assisting others.
I think it's really important to give myself the time to be creative. Even actually really digging in and researching is creative for me.
I play piano in the evenings. I read a book. I try to take time that is both being still and also being active.
Spending time in prayer, practicing yoga, or even spending time outdoors, like going boonie stomping around the jungles of Guam.
Fresh air and movement are key to restoring my sanity and perspective.
I get up before anybody in my family when it's still dark outside, and I go to the gym on some mornings, or I go just sit and have some quiet time to myself.
Or I am going for a walk, or I'm reading a book, or I'm taking a nap on the weekend.
I practice self-care by traveling. Sometimes it's good to get out of our bubble.
My best mode of self-care is to learn from my students. I've learned patience, I've learned empathy, I've learned the latest dance move.
To reach out to other teachers, share experiences, and have somebody to bounce ideas off of. It rejuvenates you and helps you reignite that passion for teaching.
Jenny, do you want to share one of the things you do, and then do you want to also share a couple from the chat box?
Yeah, absolutely. I always love that video too. I think that it's so inspiring to just hear all of the different ways that we can practice self-care. I think that's always one of my biggest takeaways, is that it can look different depending on who we are and what fills us up. I know for myself, mindfulness and meditation has been a huge supporter of my well-being. And so I always resonate when they talk about the 1-minute meditations. Some others that have come into the chat have been to set boundaries, which is such an important, way to really practice self-care and give us that time to be able to practice self-care. A lot of exercise and working out, deep breathing activities, taking walks on a regular basis, reading novels that are unrelated to work. So being able to really step away from and give our brain that break and that time for rest by diving into a good book. Taking a walk in nature, yoga, travel. I absolutely love that one. I definitely resonate with that too, about being able to kind of step outside of our normal and experience different cultures or places. And making art, that's a beautiful one. So being able to,
painting, coloring. They have those adult coloring books. I've bought a few of those. They're relaxing.
Yeah, so many great things coming into the chat, and please continue to share because again, I think that part of our well-being is being able to build the community and share the different things that we're doing and inspire all of us to keep committing to our wellness.
Right. Well, and I think all of us have a long list of wellness strategies, but then we have to do them. That's another thing, right? So let's talk about managing stress and emotions. Misconceptions about stress. Stress is bad for you and should be avoided whenever possible. There are good and bad emotions, and it's better to only allow ourselves to feel the good ones. Wrong. Having strong emotions is a sign of weakness. None of these things are true. We know that our emotions all serve a purpose, and it's just a matter of navigating them. So one of the strategies we know, and we teach this in our second step SEL program, is about naming your feelings. So we're calling this name it attainment. How can you handle charged situations without becoming too overwhelmed? When a stressful event occurs, we can weaken our physiological response by simply naming the emotion we feel. A physiological response could be things like muscles tensing, jaw clenching, feeling hot and anger. So it's even that point of you're feeling yourself all stressed, and if you just say that's frustration or I'm angry, even that, and that's kind of the mindfulness that Jenny was just touching on in terms of just being able to come into our bodies and say that feels like anxiety, and naming our feelings is something, like I said, we teach in second step. So imagine you're in a staff meeting and you're going longer than anticipated. It's 4:30 and your principal asks everyone to stay an extra 20 minutes to wrap up. The agenda items don't seem very important to you, and you think they could easily be covered at another time. You've been working since 7:30 this morning, and you have more work to do this evening to prep for tomorrow. How are you feeling? Stressed. You're frustrated. You're mad. So that's in that moment where you can say, how am I feeling? And just naming that feeling is going to disrupt that pattern. So putting emotions into words can help reduce feelings of distress and the physiological response we have to emotional stimuli. And this is based in research. This is not just something that we experience in ourselves. This is really something, like I said, that is a research-based approach. When we verbalize our emotions, it activates different parts of our brains. And I know you cannot read that little wheel off to the right-hand side, but this is a wheel we have in our SEL for Adults program. That just gives you a number of different words, because I think, by having a strong emotion vocabulary, it helps us to be able to name our feelings. And also, like I said, this is what we do in our second step program, and this is something you can also be doing for yourself to really name your feelings. So there's one approach. Sleep. A good laugh and a long sleep is the best cure for anything. And isn't that the truth? Haven't we often felt where we're so stressed about something, and then we just have one really great night's sleep, and the next day everything feels lighter and more possible. So multiple research studies have shown that sleep deprivation has a significant effect on mood. So what's the recommended amount of sleep an adult should get per night? Type in the chat box, cast your votes. At least 6 hours, 6 to 8 hours, 7 to 9 hours. So cast your votes. How many hours? The correct answer is 7 to 9 hours. So hopefully you're getting that. I know many of you are not, but lack of quality sleep not only affects our moods, but it is also related to negative health outcomes such as a memory loss, a weakened immune system, and increases in junk food cravings. Lack of quality sleep is also related to life-threatening conditions such as heart disease, obesity, dementia, and diabetes, and cancer. What percentage of adults in the U.S. are sleep deprived? Cast your votes. 20%, 33%, 52%. What do you think? What percentage of adults are sleep deprived? Yes, many of you. And the correct answer to that question is 33%. So about a third of us are. And I know, like when it says here that it increases in junk food cravings, I 100% have experienced that myself, where I crave sugar if I don't get enough sleep. I definitely do, and caffeine and all of it. So one of the things that can be a disruptor to sleep is exposure to blue lights, the light emitted by many electronic devices. So about how many hours before bedtime should you avoid blue light? So when should you cut out your screen time? 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours. Cast your votes. How many hours before bedtime should you avoid blue light? And the research says 2 to 3 hours. That's a long time. Are you going to set your cell phone down at 7 o'clock at night? But yes, that is what research shows that you should do. I am a Kindle reader, and I looked up online to see how the Kindle is with blue light, and apparently it's not very much blue light. So, and I think there's settings on your phones that you can also use to lessen the amount of blue light, to change to a night mode or something. So what is one thing you could try to help improve your sleep habits? We would love to hear some in the chat box. What is one thing you could do to try to help improve your sleep habits? For me, I'm trying to cut back on caffeine. Jenny, do you want to share something that you could do, and then share some from our chat box?
Yeah, absolutely. And I am so excited to hear the different things in the chat box because, again, this is always one of the things that I put into intention and I'm always working on for myself. One thing that I have been trying recently, because I tend to have a very busy brain, I'm sure people can relate as I'm trying to drift off to sleep, and I can be so tired before I go to bed, and then as soon as I'm laying in bed, my brain just starts like going about all of the things that I need to accomplish for the next day. So one of the things that I have been trying is really trying to tune into my body and what feels comfortable as I'm falling asleep. So again, kind of channeling that mindfulness and really focusing on just how does it feel to lay in bed and really purposefully relaxing and maybe even turning on a guided sleep meditation. And I've been trying it for about since we started the new year, and I have been falling asleep faster, so it has been working. And I'm really hoping that I can continue to focus on that and really practice some mindfulness as I'm going to bed. And then ideas that are coming into the chat, which are right on that tune. I hear listening to soft music. That is a great recommendation. Walking on a treadmill while reading a daily devotional. So making sure that our bodies are moving and are like ready and rested for bed. Staying off the phone and having no TV in the bedroom. So definitely working on stepping away from that blue light and that extra stimulus before bed. Mental exercises. Hugging a pillow. Yes, that is such a great one. I've seen some great pillows out there that are designed to be like body pillows or pillows that you can hug before bed. I definitely think I need to invest in one of those.
I read a really great book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. He's a sleep researcher, and it's a great book if you're really looking to improve your sleep quality. He's got a lot of inspiration and motivation on that topic. So if you want to improve your sleep habits, you have to make a plan. And this is the case with every other thing in life too, isn't it? If you want to save money or any other thing you're trying to do, making a plan helps. And that is also the case with sleep. So if you want to improve your sleep habits, try making a plan. Pick one thing you'll commit to trying this week to improve your overall sleep habits. And at the end of 1 week, assess how it went and decide if you want to try building additional habits. So I would love, as we move on to our next topic here, for you to just type into the chat box and share with our audience here what is a goal that you might have around changing your sleep habits. So feel free to type in a goal that you have. Foods and moods. I totally regret eating healthy today, said no one ever. That was actually just a quote I made out because no one's ever said that, because that never ever happened. You always feel good, and there's so often, especially I think this time of year is perfect for this conversation, because I'm sure, like myself, many of you have spent the entire month of December just like eating candy and cookies, and by this time of the year in January, you're just like, oh my goodness, what have I done? So I am right there with you if that is you, but it certainly does feel better to eat better. And it is widely known that maintaining a healthy, nutritious diet is a key factor in promoting physical health and well-being. What's less known is the impact of nutrition on our mental health. I certainly do notice that a lot in myself. And we're wondering if there are any foods that you have noticed affect your moods. Dr. Deborah Rall, a researcher and nutrition expert, claims that healthy food choices are happy food choices. Her work, along with that of other researchers, shows that making healthy food choices not only supports physical health, but could also help increase levels of happiness and well-being. So, food for thought, what you eat is what you feel. Vegetables are more effective at producing in-the-moment eating happiness than high-fat, high-sugar foods. And I had to read this like a few times when one of our researchers at Committee for Children presented this to me, because I just could not believe it. The research actually says that eating vegetables is better for your in-the-moment happiness than sitting down with a pint of ice cream. So I think probably, personally, my theory on why that's true is maybe that when you make good choices for yourself, that makes you feel good about yourself. And I know that is always true. Whenever I'm, in a good place where I'm making all the right choices and I'm exercising and eating well, I do feel like proud of myself and happy about those decisions. And, or if I'm sitting there in my sweatpants, with a pint of ice cream in front of the TV, maybe I don't feel quite as good about myself. So anyway, that's an actual piece of research. Skipping meals affects how we behave and feel. I know the term hangry. Many of you often probably do feel that way, especially teachers, because we know that you go on and on and on and you do not take breaks. Many of you do not. So I think even having a bag of nuts in your purse, or sitting in your desk drawer can make a difference. So if you want to improve your nutritional habits, try making one change at a time. Is there a healthier habit you would like to try? And can you commit to trying this habit for just a couple of weeks? So why don't you go ahead and type into our chat box something that you would like to do to improve your food habits. If you want to improve your nutritional habits, try making one change at a time. That's what we say. So go ahead and type in the chat box one example of something that you would like to change in terms of a nutritional habit, and then we'll share out some of those from the audience. But Jenny, do you want to start and share a food habit that you would like to improve on?
Yeah, and I also want to say that I really appreciate the conversation around foods and moods, and just really thinking about eating and the nutrients we're getting and the connection between our mental health. And whenever we have this conversation, it always reminds me that I need to eat. So no matter what the food is, I'm really just making sure that I am continuing to nourish myself throughout the day. I know there's been points in my life where I might have skipped meals, whether that was an unintentional decision because I was so busy with planning or prepping or running from one thing to the next, or if it was maybe even a conscious decision because I was trying to quote, eat healthy, but then was maybe skipping meals. And so just really making sure that we're listening to our bodies and really feeling good about the choices that we're making, and making sure that we're nourishing ourselves, because we want to make sure that we're keeping our energy throughout the day. I know that hangry or a lack of energy is a really real thing when we're not filling ourselves up. And I'm seeing a lot of really great things come into
time of year, especially, right? We all have this time of year is the best time to ask this question. So what are you seeing, Jenny, in the chat box there?
Yeah, I've seen so many great things come in about increasing water. So not just thinking about the food that we're eating, but also making sure that we are staying hydrated throughout the day, eating healthy snacks. So really making sure that we've got those healthy snacks on hand, having protein bars and nuts and things with us as we're working. Limiting coffee intake, absolutely. That is also something that I have been working on over the years. I used to drink so much coffee. I don't know if it was always super helpful for my sleeping and keeping up with my nutrition throughout the day. Preparing meals. So really trying to be more proactive about having meals on hand. And then a lot of people are sharing things about those good foods to eat. So vegetables, I see dark chocolate or chocolate also popping in. So not necessarily cutting out all of those foods.
Rather than sitting down with an entire pint of ice cream, you could have 5 squares of dark chocolate instead. That would be an improvement, right?
And if it improves our happiness, I think there's something to be said for that. So absolutely keeping those feel good foods.
Yeah, I'm trying to cut back on sugar. That's my goal for my food goal for the moment. Great. So, and also, I will mind you, we're going to talk about physical activity, and then the thing we're going to talk about after that is self-compassion, because we know that we can have all these things, like I said, and when it comes to sleep and food and physical activity, really many of us really know, what makes us feel best, and we don't always do it, and that is also okay too. And so, hence my current quote here, which is continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. I think sometimes we can get frustrated with ourselves because we think we should be going to the gym 3 days a week, or we want to, cut out sugar altogether, or we make these sort of goals and then we don't do them and then we feel bad, So let's just think about continuous improvement rather than delayed perfection. So, we all know physical activity is important to our bodies, but did you know it's also critical for cognitive functioning and mental well-being? Small changes to physical activity routines can have a positive effect on your emotional well-being. Gosh, I notice a huge difference in that for myself, and even just to walk around the block makes such a difference. So it improves your mood, it increases your brain power, it increases your energy, it improves your sleep. And it reduces stress. So basically, I think, as all of us are probably quite aware, there's probably nothing not good about physical exercise. Maybe if you overdo it, or there are some people probably that have, running addictions or things, but I personally do not suffer from an exercise addiction. And I think that probably most people struggle on the other end of it, trying to get ourselves to, go around the block or go to the gym or something. But there really are so many benefits to doing it. And also, one of the things we know from research is even just incremental small changes really do add up and make a big difference over time. So even adding 10 minutes of light exercise to your daily routine can be beneficial for both physical and mental health. And I think one of the things also with, many of you teaching from home last year, and I know now many schools are going back to that right now, unfortunately, with the situation with Omicron. I think when you're working from home, it makes it even harder, because at least before, when you had to walk from your car into the building, or you were even walking from class to class or down the hallway, or, even that amount of exercise makes a difference. And when you then are working from home and not doing that, we really all need to make an effort to make a bigger effort to go on a walk, before work in the morning, or just take even around the block at lunch. It really does make a difference. And, like I said, working from home, it's even more so, because no matter what, when you're teaching in a classroom and in a school building, you're probably walking a half an hour a day without even trying, just because you're going from place to place, in your school building that is taken away from you if you're at home. So actually, before we move to self-compassion, I think one of the things, what could you do to motivate yourself to add more exercise? So why don't we all just type in the chat box, maybe just one, and I think even the word exercise can be strong. Sometimes, you can just think of it as even being physical activity. Maybe that can just be, a little mindful movement or a walk around the block. And, it doesn't need to be, you don't need to sign up for CrossFit or, take up running. Even just sometimes, even just maybe if you want to move your phone conversation you have to your sister once a week, into a walk, that you do with a virtual walk together or something. But why don't you go type into the chat box just one thing that you could add to your exercise, add to bring more exercise into your life. And Jenny maybe perhaps could share something from her life, and then also read out some things from the chat box.
Yeah, absolutely. I also appreciate the conversation around exercise and the influence on our just mental well-being throughout the day. And I know that one of the things that I am always focusing on when I think about my own just like physical movement is really trying to lean into what are those in the moment benefits, whether it's just, gosh, like I really needed to stretch my legs, or I got outside to get some fresh air, or I feel like I was actually able to get that mental break, or I listened to some really good music while I was exercising. And so really trying to lean into what feels good about that movement, whether it's something small or something bigger, like an actual full, bike ride or run or something that's more full exercise. But no matter the level, just really trying to lean into what feels good in my body or in my mind while I'm moving or practicing that certain thing.
Nice. What are we hearing from our audience? Anybody sharing any interesting goals they might have to do more exercise?
Yeah, I have seen a lot of hiking and getting outside and enjoying fresh air,
Yes.
making groups around exercises, or going on walks. So starting a walking group or a hiking group.
I would love a walking group. That sounds great, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Me too. That's such a good idea. Zumba. So definitely like incorporating music and dance, yoga.
Yeah, I think a lot of those classes like Zumba, like a lot of, I mean, I'm a person who likes a class too, and I think, with all the gyms, a lot of gyms being closed or requiring masks, it's had a lot of people who used to like those kinds of things maybe aren't as motivated to do it from home.
I see shooting hoops, so getting out and playing basketball, I absolutely love that. So making it an activity that we really enjoy, or maybe enjoyed as a child and into our adult life. Getting up from our desk more frequently. That is a great one. It can be just as small as walking around and making sure we're getting those stretching.
I think even having a standing desk, if you're going to be working from home, I think probably having a standing desk even makes a difference.
And I see some people who have added in breathing exercises in the morning and in the night. And so maybe thinking about some really restorative ways to move as well. So whether that's just like getting more oxygen or finding that time for stretching and breathing also can have a huge impact on our mental well-being and physical well-being throughout the day.
Yeah, a lot of great ideas.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, everybody. I was like, I could read these all day. I've seen woodworking that came in. Mushroom and bug spotting. So just so many different ways to move. It's great.
Yeah. And also, I think self-compassion in terms of our wellness. I think it's we wouldn't properly be able to talk about a wellness program without talking about self-compassion. And we also should mention that self-compassion also applies to wellness in the sense of that many of us we all really oftentimes know that it would help us to eat better and exercise and sleep better and do all these things, and sometimes we just do the best we can, and sometimes that might mean that we spend a whole weekend with the blinds drawn on the couch watching movies, and we don't get any time in nature or out for a walk or that, and those times are perfectly okay too. So it's really kind of about meeting ourselves where we are and doing the best we can and incorporating as many of these healthy things into our lives as we can. And when we can't, to be self-compassionate about that. So having compassion for yourself means that you honor and accept your humanness. And the other thing I think with compassion too is I think educators are all such giving, sort of kind-hearted people naturally. I mean, that's why you've chosen careers in education, and you are so compassionate to your colleagues and your students, and I'm sure to your own communities and families, and I think it would help if we could all kind of remind ourselves to be that for ourselves too. Perfection is not required. You don't have to be perfect at anything you do, and your best really is good enough. So self-compassion. Researchers define compassion as the feelings that arise when you are confronted with another's suffering and feel motivated to relieve that suffering. And self-compassion is when we can turn this feeling inward upon our own suffering. One of the things we have at Committee for Children is we have a winter well-being series of videos, which is for parents, and we're just releasing them now. So every week in January, we release a winter well-being video, and we created one of the videos last year on compassion, on self-compassion. So we thought we would play this. And like I said, this is a video we made for parents, but certainly it applies to educators as well. It applies to everyone. And also, if you like this video, you should come to our Committee for Children website and see we have, or our YouTube page, and we are releasing one of these videos every month in January, and you can share those with your parents of your students. So.
Welcome to the first week of Winter Wellbeing. Today we're going to talk about self-compassion. I know what you're thinking. I don't have time for self-care. you're sleep deprived, the list of to-dos keeps piling up, or maybe you finally do take a few minutes to yourself and then you feel guilty about it. The demands of raising children is hard for everyone, and many of us never feel that we're good enough or that we can keep up with it all. Self-compassion means showing yourself some grace and accepting yourself for who you are. It's good for us and for our children. A continued focus on self-care and social-emotional well-being will be especially important as we head into a pandemic winter. From a social-emotional perspective, research shows that practicing self-compassion leads to more happiness and well-being. In a counterintuitive way, self-compassion also seems to lead to more motivation and better self-control. So being kind to yourself is actually more effective for getting things done than being hard on yourself. And it's just a big part of feeling socially and emotionally whole. By the way, children pick up on the behaviors that are modeled to them by the adults in their lives. So if you're modeling non-judgment and self-compassion, your kids are more likely to follow your lead. Practicing self-compassion is an important strategy to help us cope with uncertainty and stress. The way you talk to yourself, both about the good things and the bad things, plays a vital role in your overall well-being. But self-compassion is not self-indulgence and it's not self-pity. It is just extending the same kindness to ourselves that we would to other people. It is being supportive and kind to yourself, especially in the face of stress and failure. So this week, every morning, I want you to write yourself a literal permission slip. Every day, write down the phrase, "I give myself permission to," and then fill in the rest. Here's mine for today. I give myself permission to take time for myself, not for work, not for my family, just for me, to do whatever I feel like. Maybe you want to give yourself permission to cross things off your to-do list without actually doing them, or to say no to something that you know in your heart you just don't have time for, or to do something, write a report, make dinner, clean the house, that's just mediocre. Not perfect, not even good, just mediocre. Focus on writing yourself one permission slip every day. That's all for this week. I'll leave you with this quote by academic Kristen Neff. Having compassion for yourself means that you honor and accept your humanness. I'll see you next week, and we'll talk about managing holiday stress. Thanks for watching.
I love that video. And I would love to hear some of your ideas. So what can you write on your personal permission slip today? Perhaps you could share some of those things in the chat box. I love the concept of setting a goal to allow yourself to be mediocre at something, right? That seems like a great idea to me, to write a permission slip to say, you know what, I'm just going to have a messy kitchen today and I'm not going to care. So why don't you think about something that you would write on your personal permission slip and share those in the chat box. Maybe Jenny could share something that she would offer to herself, and then maybe she could share some from our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing so many great things come into the chat already. It seems like this is really resonating with so many of us. I know that it really resonates with me about the challenges that can come around self-compassion, especially if we're so busy being compassionate for others that it can be really challenging to turn that inward. And it's definitely a practice, something to continually put an intention toward. And I love this idea of a permission slip because I think it's something that we can actionably add into our days so that we can make sure that we're practicing compassion towards ourselves. I think that if I had to give myself a permission slip, it would probably be to really let myself relax in my downtime. I think that even when I step away from work, I tend to be still really going very actively with my brain. And so giving myself that permission to take a step away, turn my brain off, and give myself that authentic time for care that I need, that is really essential. I think I would love to write myself a permission slip for that. And then other ideas that are coming into the chat are taking time to rest after work and to finish chores another day, doing it tomorrow. Absolutely. A permission slip to just be me. That is a beautiful share. I think that
Yes.
really speaks to the importance of tuning into this, to what we need, and really, learning to connect with ourselves and what it means to make ourselves feel filled up and happy. A permission slip to say no when there's too much on our plate already. That is another fantastic share. Not to feel like I have to explain myself. So that's another great thing about boundaries, being able to share the things you need and not necessarily having to justify that to somebody else.
Yeah, boundaries are hard. And those are good things to have permission slips around, I think, because I think a lot of us struggle with that. I love those ideas. So thanks for sharing, and you're welcome to keep chatting in the chat box about that and reading those things. And our last topic of the day is on gratitude. I love this quote from Maya Angelou: "Be present in all things and be thankful for all things." You're not alone if you find yourself dwelling on the negative aspects of life right now. Researchers call this the negativity bias. You can disrupt this natural negativity bias and enhance your personal well-being by intentionally paying more attention to what's going well and expressing gratitude for it. What is it? It's a well-researched routine. I know myself, I have a gratitude journal. I write 5 things I'm thankful for at the end of every day, and it helps. Expressing gratitude regularly can change your mindset over time. Expressing gratitude can be done publicly or privately. And the best way, apparently, according to research, is to be concrete and specific and to go into detail instead of making a list. So for me, when I read that, I think, rather than saying, I'm thankful for my family, maybe I think, I'm thankful for my nephew Owen because of X, Y, and Z. So if you think about something very specific rather than just having like, I'm thankful for my life, or I'm thankful for my home, maybe to think, I'm thankful for, the view that I have out of my bedroom, or something specific. I think is supposedly, according to research, more effective. Yes, it's true. That's always it, isn't it? Really, I think when it comes down to the things we're always most grateful for, it is really the people in our lives that often shine forth as being so important to us. But there's many things to be thankful for, and certainly I know Jenny and I are both. We talked about earlier today. We're so thankful for all of you. We're so thankful that we get the opportunity to come here and talk with you. And no matter how hard life can be, there is always much to be grateful for despite it. There is always, even in our darkest moments, we can usually find a place of gratitude within that. So we're going to go back before we end and do a little activity around gratitude. But before we do that, I just wanted to share with you one more thing that we also have to offer you at Committee for Children. If you're interested in this topic of teacher well-being and educator social emotional learning, we have a Second Step SEL for Adults program, which is a research-based digital professional learning program designed to strengthen K-12 educators' social emotional skills and knowledge. And the modules prioritize educator well-being and building a positive learning environment, and new and responsive content will be added over time. So it has 15 hours of individual and group learning. Module 1 is building trust. Module 2 is managing stress. Module 3 and 4 are coming soon, but I have the topics here. Module 3 is around equity and belonging. Module 4 is on resilience and efficacy. So this is a program that you would do as a whole school staff together to increase your own social emotional competencies. I love how we start with building trust, and that is about building community among teaching staff so that you can really build a culture of trust among your teachers and between your teachers and your school leaders. And like I said, and then we move into managing stress next, which we know you all need more. And hopefully we've given you a few skills today, but this is a whole module that you could be doing together with your colleagues. And then, like I said, our equity and belonging unit comes next. And after that, resilience and efficacy. So efficacy, if you're not familiar with that term, is really kind of about having that feeling of, Like self-efficacy is the feeling of like, I can do this, like I have everything I need to do this. Collective efficacy is around kind of, we got this. If we feel as a teaching staff that we can handle this, that we got these kids, and we can, whatever our goals are as a school, we're going to be able to do that. That's efficacy. So that's our module 4. And over time, we'll continue to build this content. We are also doing a webinar on the 26th with Doug Fisher, Dr. Doug Fisher, who's very well known. He was in one of our earlier videos in the beginning, and this is going to be about a principal's guide for implementing SEL for adults. So if you're interested in learning more, you can go to our website, and we have more on that. So we have just a few minutes left, and I wanted to, we're going to play for you just a short video. Or it's not a video, actually. It's a mindfulness audio recording. And while we play that, we would love for you to be sharing into our chat box some of the things you're grateful for. And this is, I think it's about 3 minutes long. So it's a guided sort of mindfulness activity, and it's on gratitude. It's something that we developed at Committee for Children. It's called Mind Yeti. And you can listen to this and more like it at our Mind Yeti YouTube page.
Hello. Welcome to Mind Yeti. Gratitude is noticing the good things in your life and saying thank you for those things. Just saying thank you can put you in a better mood. And it can help you settle the hubbub and feel more connected to the world around you. Today, you are going to think about having gratitude. Before we begin, take a moment to find your Yeti body. Sit comfortably with your back straight and your feet or legs resting on the floor. Feel how the floor or your chair supports you as you sit. We call this your Yeti body. Start by taking a few breaths. If you want, you can close your eyes. Now, think about something that brought you happiness this week. Maybe you had your favorite food, or heard a song you love, or had fun playing with a friend. Maybe a dog wagged his tail when he saw you. Don't worry if you're having trouble thinking of something. It can be something simple, like a joke that made you laugh. For a moment, just remember that happy thing. Notice how you feel when you think about it. Now, silently say thank you. Notice how it feels to say thank you. You can feel gratitude for big things and for little things. It's easy to forget the little things that make us feel happy every day. Like feeling the warm sun on your face. Gratitude is just as simple as remembering to notice the special things in your life and saying, thank you. Just think about that for a moment. What do you notice about your mood? Notice if your mood feels a little different. Anytime you want to get in a better mood or settle the hubbub, Slow down and try to think of something that makes you happy. Then take a moment to say, "Thank you." When you're ready, you can open your eyes and return your attention to the room.